Okay, you are live.
Thank you. Hey, I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting for today, September 15th. Petra, will you please call the roll?
Make sure you're muted. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Miss Conley,
Here.
Miss Johnstone, Mr. Tomei. There you go. Hi, Mr. Tomei.
Hi.
Miss Byer, Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Elder, Miss McDonald,
Here.
and Miss Tillerson.
She's coming in.
Yep, I see her.
Okay, thank you. The first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from May 12th and the minutes from July 14th, 2021. Do I have a recommendation for approval?
Also move.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we'll go to agency updates, starting with the Charleston County Sheriff's Department. I'd like to welcome Naomi Morris, Master Deputy from the Sheriff's Department. And I don't know if you're going to give the report, Naomi, or if Lieutenant Brokaw.
Introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
He wanted me to introduce myself. My name is
Okay.
Master Deputy Naomi Morris. I work for Charleston County Sheriff's Office. I've been there almost 33 years, and I'm currently doing the Kiowa monthly reports. Lieutenant Brokaw will be handling that part of it.
Great. Thank
Nice
you,
to meet
Naomi, and
everyone.
welcome.
Good morning or early afternoon. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay?
You're a little, we need it a little bit louder.
All right, let me see what I can do with that. Okay, is that any better? Or?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to share there. I did, Tony had asked me to pull some stats for the last year on what we would call significant type crimes on the island. And looking back from August of 2020 to August of this year, I'm gonna give you just a minor little breakdown of a few larcenies and the number of burglaries we had on the island. Basically, we had four larcenies from vehicles.
Lieutenant Brokaw, could you even be louder?
I don't know if I can talk it loud as much. I don't know what's my thing.
The information you have, you may just have to also give it to Petra so we can share it. So I think we're getting feed from other people that may not be muted. So we're having a hard time hearing you, Lieutenant. But if everyone can mute their computers or phones, that might help.
Okay, is that any? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's all right. It might be you. It might be
Naomi,
your
can you
system.
mute?
It has to do with how far you are from your microphone.
I am right on top of my computer.
Okay.
So,
Naomi and Bonnie, if you could mute.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay, thank you.
okay, I'll try and talk louder. Does that help?
That's better. Thank you.
We had four larcenies in the last year from cars. Basically, wallets taken out, credit cards, stuff like that. But there were 3 counts abroad, all this year. One in January, one in May. Catalytic converters being taken off vehicles.
Oh, really?
Can you not hear me? I hear a bunch of warbling and something in the back.
Yeah, there is. Okay, now try.
Okay. According to our records, it shows that we had 6 reported burglaries on the island. Two of those, we made an arrest on. It was the same subject from an ex-pool contractor employee.
Uh-huh.
Two of them we found were unfounded. They weren't burglaries at all. And the other two were possibly, we don't know, we don't have enough information or evidence yet to go any further, but it looks like they may have been some type of contractors or cleaning crew or something that were in the houses. But
Okay.
over the last year, 6, and really only 4 because 2 were unfounded.
Right.
Overall, I think things are going well. Our guys are enjoying the bikes, riding the bikes out on the island, and
Are they
their
getting any
interactions.
feedback?
I'm sorry.
Have you gotten any feedback on the bikes? On the bike?
I haven't from the myself, but some of the guys say that when they have interactions with people, it's all positive on the island. I think they enjoy seeing them out and about. And those guys do some serious riding. They'll ride all the way down to the ocean course out past there.
Oh, good.
So they're all over the island on the bikes.
Okay. And do you have any information on the bike accident that occurred with the
Just that
babysitter?
yeah, it's still under investigation right now, so I can't do a whole lot of commenting on that. So they're working on that.
Okay.
Are you talking about the one that happened right outside the gate?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're still working. It's just under investigation type thing right now.
Okay, I'm going to say something and you can tell me whether you can tell me or not. I understand that in evaluating the accident, the driver of the truck was not guilty.
I'd rather not comment because
Okay.
it's still a legal situation. But if you get a chance to look at the video, which is property of Kika, and Tony will share it with you, I think.
Oh, good.
Easy to draw your conclusion from that.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any suggestions on how we can improve our bike safety?
Just, I know this being worked on, and I talked to Stephanie about it and Tony as well. That whole intersection there is a nightmare, bike path and traffic wise. Hopefully something can be done to improve that whole area, because the bike paths curve and they go back around backwards, and one coming out from across the street is a nightmare. I understand that's going to be shut down eventually. But yeah, that's just a bad intersection.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Lieutenant Brokaw at this time?
This is Dwight. I don't really have any questions, but I still think, and it's not related to this accident, but we still really have to work on the vehicle speeds on the island. It's I don't see any big improvement. I know there's some things coming down the pike here soon to even slow at least the posted speed limit more, but even at the higher speed limits, it's there's a lot of fast vehicles out there. So anything we can do to continue to kind of battle the speeding, I think will help reduce the number of serious accidents that we have on the island. Again, not necessarily at the main gate, but anywhere on the island. That's my only
I totally
concern.
agree. If you could let us know specific areas, I know there's certain areas that seem to be trouble all the time, off and on, and we'll put people there, and it'll slow down there until we're not there as consistently, and then people realize we're not there. So
I know.
Yeah, whatever. If you give us areas, we'll move, and I'll put people there for as long as we need them to, and try to slow things down and make it safe as possible.
Thank you. I know it's a bit of a whack-a-mole, but it's a problem.
But at least that's something. Yep. I mean, at least we can do something to prevent.
Thank you.
It does help. And somebody, one of the residents had suggested to me that when the officers use the bicycle patrol, maybe they would leave their car in an area where speeders could see it and think there's a police officer there, a sheriff.
Well, the only hard part about doing that is they'd have to get one of the other deputies to pick them up and take them back to where. Well, no, it could be done. No, it could be done.
They could do it. They could park.
Those are the spikes on the rack on the car, so they should be able to park somewhere. I'll make sure that they put that into practice. That's a good idea.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Bonnie?
It's not so much a question. I totally agree with Dwight that, we do have an issue with speeding on the island, but I don't think these bicycle accidents, the onus all goes to the driver. I obey the speed limits, and I am seeing bikers just cross the road. Numerous times I've had to stop. I think I discussed this with you, Marianne, is people riding bikes with AirPods on.
Mm-hmm.
Are talking on telephones. I mean, I don't know, is that something that our bike control? I mean, I don't know how you would control that, but I think that, this issue is bikers and motorists.
Good point.
That is true. That is very true.
Stephanie, on the task force, are they looking at any bicycle regulations?
No, I've only attended one meeting.
Okay.
So if they are discussing it, I'm not aware of anything specifically of what we just talked about. Rob attended that meeting with me. Rob, we didn't talk about anything at that meeting with regards to bicycle.
Nothing in detail. There was maybe a comment, nothing specific.
Right.
I was asked by somebody for input for the task force, and I had talked to Paul Peterson, I think his name is, and I told him that we were very concerned about the bikes, the activity on the bike paths, and the people riding in the street when they have a bike path available.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll come up at a later date. All right, thank you very much for your input. Now we'll move on to Chief Walls.
Okay, good afternoon. I just want to let you know Chief Stanley's here also.
Hi, Chief Stanley.
Chief Gooditzer. So a lot's gone on in the last few months. Station 4 is basically completed with a few punch list items. They have to go back, and we were not able to have an in-person grand opening, obviously with COVID, but we did do a virtual grand opening, and that link should be on our website by the end of today. It is on our YouTube page, and basically it is the tour of the new station virtually.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so with aerial shots also from our drone, but it really is a beautiful station and a nice addition to our facilities. So we're about to launch into a very I would say heavy strategic planning, and a lot of that we were headed on doing anyway, but because of the potential annexation and growth on the island with the hospital in the senior care facility. So what we'll be looking at is our standard of cover currently, our facilities, our ability to get to various parts of the island and what time we can get there. And that's a really important part of us in our 5-year plan, because we need to know what equipment we'll need. We are meeting with Kiowa River next week to get the status on their growth, because once they hit a 200th certificate of occupancy, there is dedicated land for public safety services, as well as potentially, what am I thinking of? A district justice that was written into that with the county. So that's part of that process in strategic planning. We'd also asked to meet with Stephanie and the mayor to get any of their input on the their ideas of growth as far as public safety on the island, because that will all become a part of our strategic planning process. I would like to say I'm really happy that we received a fire grant to add additional training to our firefighters to go from EM to paramedic. It will allow us to send 20 of our firefighters that are currently EMTs to paramedic school.
Wonderful.
It was over $660,000 in order to do that. We are right now in the first reading of Charleston County to re-amend our budget to acquire a new fire rescue boat that will provide better coverage for that part of our territory, as well as we'll refurb the old boat and put it at the other end of our areas of coverage. I'm not sure if you're aware, but St. John's has the only fireboat on this end of our territory. And so many times throughout this past summer, you know, as boats do, boats go down, and we've been one of only 2 fireboats that are running in the whole Charleston area. So we want to make sure that we plan for that. And as many of you know, someone took over the marina, they purchased it, and there have been some changes. And so in order to make sure that's a stable position there, we're going to purchase a slip of our own to make sure that the fireboat's able to stay there without any jockeying of that position. So we're happy about that. I also want to say, and Commissioner Tomei can fill you in a little more, on Monday, we were asked by EMS about, I'd say a little less than a month ago, if they could put a unit into Station 6, EMS bus. And at that time, there were still some issues with the station. We still had the tower up at Station 6. We were able to move that less than 2 weeks ago back to Station 4. And there's still some issues that had to tie up from that former contractor. So they completed the concrete. We were allowed to start driving on the concrete yesterday. And then on Monday, the commission voted to allow a trial period to have Charleston County EMS put a unit inside Station 6 to be available. And I think Chief Abrams could probably fill you in a little bit more about what kind of schedule they will be running and how they will be handling that. I think, I'm not sure if Deputy Bialik is on the call also, but we haven't worked out the time, date, or logistics of that yet, but we have informed our battalion chiefs that that's coming. And again, the commission voted on that on Monday, so we were happy about that.
That's very good news for Kiowa.
Yes, I agree. So I think that Chief Kunitzer sent Petra our stats. I think she did.
I got them.
Okay.
They're the reports in your materials.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Petra. I appreciate that. And also, last but certainly not least, is I think that I emailed some of you over the child drowning at the sanctuary, and that little girl is doing very well at this time. And St. John's ended up being on the call. They resuscitated the little girl, and we had a very nice ending. So, and that doesn't always happen. So I'm very happy about that.
Chief, when did that occur?
August 26th.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so you have good news. And I think that instead of saying you just had the party virtually, you have to say it's delayed until a future date.
Well, as soon as we can get this COVID thing over, I would hope.
Because there's no way we're going to miss a party at the firehouse.
Exactly. And we'll be happy to have you as soon as we get this COVID thing over. We did put a mandatory vaccine in just as Charleston County and in the city, and you know, it just doesn't seem like there's any other way out of this than that.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Stephanie, did you have anything to add to that report? No. Okay. Moving right along, we'll have EMS here. Who's representing EMS?
Good morning, Ms. Connolly.
I hope you're not driving.
No, ma'am, I'm not. I can verify I'm not driving anymore. Though it might be an improvement if I wasn't watching the road to my normal driving. Chief Walsh, thank you for the excellent update. You guys have a lot of great things going on. We are here to continue to support your efforts as well. And so I have a couple of two different reports really just to apprise the committee on. Last month's numbers, we did 34 incidences in August. 17 of those 34 were under 20-minute responses. We had 5 that were between 30 and 40, 11 that were between 20 and 30 minutes. And there's one in the data that's an error. It says 54-minute response time, Our crew did not mark on scene, but that came out in the data. So it was a less than 10-minute response time. And that unit did come from the station out here at Medic 10 station on Betsy Garrison.
And Petra has your report on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
She does. So in August, we had an 18% compliance with responding or being on scene under the 12-minute mark.
Okay.
Since we put the 24/72 shift out at Station 10 on this started August the 27th, we have gone up to 42% responses within under 12 minutes. So in the last, since August 27th through yesterday, we had a total of 12 responses. 10 of those were under 20 minutes. One of those was at 21 minutes. And then we had one that was at 44 minutes, and it came out, it's going to show up as 55 minutes. We got dispatched for a stingray bite, the patient, or stingray jab, and the patient told responders that she did not want an ambulance. So we got canceled. Then we got reassigned to a chest pain that was on the island, on John's Island. And then the patient changed their mind. We did not append our response time. So there was about a 10 to 15 minute delay with that. So we actually had a unit that was responding from farther away. So it was really a 44-minute response time. That kind of leads into our growth plans. We want to have even better coverage for Kiowa. We'd like to kind of get some of our 20-minute, 19, 18-minute response times down even better. So we are trying to open up another location actually physically on the island, starting off with a 6-month trial like we did with the overtime units that we did for Station 10. So we're going to maintain our Station 10 as a 24-hour coverage. So that won't go away. What we're trying to do is add an additional resource on the island itself. And we're going to initially open that up to overtime for people who want to kind of not be, hammered running call after call. They can do their overtime shifts out here on that other unit. So some days it'll be staffed, sometimes it won't be, but those will be 12-hour units, overtime shifts. So if it's consistent with how we've done that in the past, we should have about a 50% time that should be staffed is what we're expecting. But it'll give us some better numbers and better understanding if we want to actually, if we're able to put that in as a second full-time 24-hour shift. So we'd have 2 units out here. And Chief Watts is right. This area is growing exponentially. So part of our plan is to have a greater presence ahead of that growth out here for the Kiowa, Seabrook, and the Johns Island area.
That's great news. Now, is this the same vehicle that Chief Walsh was talking about?
This will be working with her fire department. She'll try to give us some space that we'll have another ambulance out there. If that's
An ambulance?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be an ambulance. It'll be a transport unit, which is kind of what we want to do, of course, is have the stretchers, the ambulances to patients so that we can expedite transport as opposed to just having a paramedic. Though fire paramedic response is something that we highly endorse. I think it's great. The higher certifications you can provide to our fire departments, the better off we are. And Chief Walsh has done a great job with getting the EMT certification. So the logical next step is the paramedic. So I think that's great. And we're here to help support that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Chief Bialik or Chief Benton, I don't know if either one of you have anything else to add to the EMS report.
Can I ask a quick question,
Sure.
Director Abrams, with regards to
ma'am.
that? The vehicle that you'll have at St. John's Fire Department, will that be stationed there all the time, regardless if you have a person there, or is the vehicle only there when a person is there? And of course, I asked this question because if you have a vehicle there all the time and the person's not there, would St. John run that vehicle for you if nobody's there?
The unit would be coming from logistics, which would be our central deploying location. We can talk about having the unit there. There would be concerns, of course, of non-EMS personnel getting on the unit to operationalize it. There's a concern with narcotics as well. We'd have to find a place to store narcotics, and it would be another drug licensing. It would be somewhat cumbersome, but we traditionally have not opened our units up to rescue squad or fire departments to operate the unit. With a lack of familiarity with a lot of the nuances on transporting and encoding and the chart writing and the compliance with Medicare and claim submissions and stuff, seems to be, it's a lot more cumbersome. It seems like it would be a logical step, but there's a lot of regulatory constraints to that.
Okay. So right now the units it will just be there when you all have someone there staffed.
Yes, ma'am, correct. We typically have never had a unit just sits there without having staff associated with that unit.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would have an ambulance there when you have a staff for that.
Correct. And again, this would be in addition to the unit that's stationed out here at Station 10 on Bessie Harrison. It would not be in lieu of. This would be a second.
That's what I wanted to clarify. So we'll be in a much better position to respond quickly to any needs on the island.
Yes, ma'am. And it also adds that redundancy that if we do get two calls in the area, we have that backup that's nearby as well already.
And when will this start?
Chief Bialik, when do you intend to open that up? I think once we get everything squared away with St. John's, I believe, but.
Okay.
So yeah, once we get a parking space in an area with the chief is when we'll be able to operationalize that. But that's just a question of us opening that shift up for overtime.
Yeah, I believe it was left with Chief Bialik attended the Monday commission meeting virtually. And so we just need to know when they're ready to go. The apron is allowed to be driven on as of yesterday on the front. I think Kika still has to come by and do some asphalt, but that's minor compared to what the work had to be done. So, whenever they're ready to let us know, all we need is some advance warning to make sure that our personnel know but we got plenty of space up there now. We moved the tower back down to Station 4.
Great. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate all your efforts.
Dave, for my benefit, what is the vehicle called that's in between that we're going to have on site? What is that kind of vehicle called?
The ambulance.
No.
As far as
that's what it's called.
Right? A what?
I'm sorry, Stephanie.
Is it called it's the ambulance, right? The EMS ambulance is what you guys going to have.
Yes, ma'am. And currently we don't have an identifier for it as far as what it will be called, as far as like on the radio. Right now, Medic 35 is the unit that we have stationed on at the Station 10. So anytime, that's the only Medic 35 we have is one that's stationed out here on the 24/72 shifts.
Okay, I always have a problem with this, but there is a vehicle that's in between a regular SUV.
You're talking about the QRV?
Yes.
I mean, quick response vehicle. We're not getting a quick response vehicle. It's just a regular ambulance, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify because I heard we were getting a QRV and now I hear we're getting an ambulance and we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, it's going to be better for the.
Not the same
thing. I want to say what we are concerned about and what you all are concerned about is being able to transport the patients. So they're going to put a full ambulance up there and be able to transport patients off the island.
Right, because the QRV cannot transport.
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. That's very good news. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And we've moved away from having the QRVs as just response vehicle out here or in any of the geographically challenged areas, just because what the patients need and deserve is a transport unit. So when we talk about vehicles, unless specified, we're referring to transport ambulances, fully staffed, advanced life support ambulances.
Okay, so I want to make sure we're clear. We're going to have the ambulance on Kiowa property at the fire station when we have somebody from EMS that can staff it. Okay. Do you ever envision, not do you ever, well, in the near future, do you envision that being a regular part of the rotation?
Absolutely. That is actually part of our longer range plan. It's just staff dependent. So if we, in the next year or so, get the staffing we want, that is on the radar to staff permanently. What we want to try to do is provide overtime opportunities for our workforce, and also use that opportunity to provide better coverage to areas that we want to improve and provide better coverage on. So it's a win-win for our employees and for the citizens of Kiowa.
Yes, it is. How are you doing on staffing your positions? At one point, I think you had 88 openings.
Correct. So council gave us on April 16th, they gave us an increase of 64 employees. We had 13 to 15 vacancies at the time. Currently, we have 43 vacancies. So we have another 22 employees starting September 24th.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any questions for EMS?
Yes, Chief Abrams, you mentioned earlier Medic 35. I've noticed in the run reports that I get from Central Dispatch that there's a Medic 35A. I'm just curious what that.
Yes, sir. Excellent question, sir. So we, to denote the different 24-hour shifts, since the crews work 24/72, so they're on 24 hours and they have 72 hours off, that's 16 people or 4 different shifts. So A would be A track, B is B track, C is C track, and D is D track. It's just an administrative tool for us to keep them separate, but it's Medic 35. Like today is Medic 35D. I know that's the D shift crew that is on Medic 35.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bill. All right, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to Rob and Beach Patrol.
Good afternoon. We've made it through Labor Day, and we're finally coasting into the off season for the winter. We've been sort of asked to focus on the leash law, and I finally had a chance this morning to sort of review our statistics through August 31st. And I'm disappointed to say that we've only written one leash law citation for the month of August, and I haven't gone into September yet to see what the first half of this month looks like. But I'll talk with my guys and make sure that our focus is on making sure that there's compliance, as well as writing citations if necessary. We've implemented, or I guess re-implemented, a tool that we used to use back 2015, 2016, 2017, which is a cloud-based Google document to track the number of warnings that leash law violators have been getting. It's not a great system, but it's the best that we've got. And so basically what this allows us to do is enter the name of the violator, the date, and the location. And then if we catch them again, every time we stop somebody for a leash law violation, we are cross-referencing with that list to see if they're a repeat offender or if this is a first time, and letting that sort of dictate our course of action as far as enforcement, whether it's a verbal, written, or citation that we issue. So it's really a cumbersome process, and it takes a lot of time. We're on mobile devices, so pulling up that document, accessing that document, searching on a phone through an Excel spreadsheet basically is what we're having to do. And so it takes a little more time. People get frustrated and they're irritated that they're stopped for the leash law violation in the first place. So in addition to that, we've also for about a year had one body cam, and we've gotten a second body cam, and really it's designed to serve two purposes. The best thing is, I think everybody's attitude changes when they know that they're on camera, and so that's our guys being more courteous, as well as people being more respectful when we stop them and interact. And so we've encouraged the guys to use them, and like I say, we've only got two, and so we can get more if we determine that that's a good resource to have for the guys. So that's sort of the enforcement summary for the beach. Did you have any questions about the leash law specifically, or anything else that?
No, we'll bring it up. We'll be able to discuss it again in October.
Good.
And see how this goes. I've been asking about it. It's something that we need to address. Okay. And
only other thing to add is please, if you're getting complaints, encourage people to call the Beach Patrol phone, or
Right.
let us know. We are a moving billboard on the beach, and people can see us from miles away. And so when we get reports of dogs being off leash, it's mainly when we're not around. And so when we come through patrolling, everybody's dogs are on the leash because they see us coming from away. So if we know we get a complaint, usually what our guys have been doing is going to land side of a boardwalk, walking down the boardwalk, and then actually being able to catch the people violating the law. So additionally, we've been meeting with the CDC, the Consolidated Dispatch Center, trying to streamline some of our responses. And so I think it's a really good thing. There's been some instances where because of human errors, mostly due to a large workload and a large volume of calls that are being fielded by the dispatchers, there's some things that are falling through the cracks. And because there's a human element involved with my folks specifically being added to calls as a resource, it just leaves opportunity for us to be left off a call. And so hopefully we're getting that process automated and a little more streamlined, and hopefully it's going to be a good thing for us interacting with other responders, the fire department, the law enforcement folks, and EMS. Also, one thing I'll note, looking at the statistics for this year, we've doubled the number of stingray stings that we've treated this year, and normally we see a slight increase year over year, but seeing that number double is pretty impressive. And we hear stories occasionally of people that get stung by stingrays and they never notify Beach Patrol, and we never get notified of it. So these are just the number of reported stingray stings. And so I think it would be a great idea. We're going to try and this winter work on some public awareness information to share with the town through the communication avenues about what to do with stingray stings, how to avoid them, and just awareness of them on the island. And then the last thing, I know Chief Walls already mentioned it, but I had the privilege of listening to, I wasn't on the island, but I was listening to the radio when the drowning went out at the sanctuary, and Yvonne's folks did an incredible job, and the fire folks did an incredible job. So kudos to them. That was an impressive save. So great job with that.
Thank you, Rob. How many stingray bites were there?
So far through August 31st, we've had, 240.
Oh my.
So just so you know, each stingray sting, they're really time consuming. The treatment is hot water. And so we usually try and get the patient to hot water or get hot water to the patient. And so usually the pain, there's an intense pain that lasts for plus or minus 2 hours or so. And soaking it in hot water is the definitive treatment for stingray stings. And so it takes a considerable amount of time to treat these patients. It's not like a simple laceration or something that we splint in some way. Some of these calls tie us up for 30, 45 minutes, upwards of an hour, give or take. And so having 240 of those already this season is a pretty large consumption of our time and resources on the beach. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Does anyone have any questions for Rob?
Rob, just a logistic question, I guess. Do you have much difficulty with people on the beach lying to you about who they are? Because I doubt seriously if people are carrying ID on the beach. Is that an issue or not?
It is. Usually people, so with the leash law specifically, you've got some people, we come up to them, they never put their dog on the leash, we stop them, and they are completely caught off guard. They're oblivious. They've put their head in the sand and have no idea that there's any leash law at all whatsoever. We use that as an educational opportunity. Generally that happens on Sundays. people's first day on the beach and then moving forward, those people usually aren't an issue anymore. We have people that we ride up to and they put their dog on the leash as we're coming up and making our approach. We know that they're aware of the ordinance and they're just defiant. They're playing the odds that Beach Patrol is not going to be out there, that we're going to be just in an incredibly good mood and not write them a ticket. And so those people usually at minimum get a written warning and if necessary get a citation. And then we have the people that are really defiant with providing information, and that's generally where the citations come in. Usually what will happen is they'll give us an address and or a name and it's something odd, and we'll quickly Google the address and see that it's a shopping center in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we'll have the sheriff's department come down and actually run them through their SLED database and get us the necessary information. And so that's usually the three different scenarios that we have is people that just have no idea, that need to be educated. You've got the people that know what it is and they're trying to get away with it. And then you've got the people that think they can get away with it to the point that they're just going to lie about it. And so we've seen enough of it that we kind of can tell the people that are not being forthcoming with the information, and usually the sheriff's office gets involved with us with that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Rob, thank you very much. And also compliments to Yvonne and to the fire company. Next on the agenda is the Kiowa Island Community Association. I know that Tony is not here, so we'll have to wait for that information. Under old business, we have none. Under new business, we have recommendation for reappointment of Stephen Rolando to the St. John's Fire District Commission. And I believe that recommendation comes from the mayor and then to the governor. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Yes, correct. You all will, if you see fit to recommend to town council to reappoint him, that recommendation will go to town council. You all as town council then will approve his recommendation consideration. Then the mayor writes a letter to Charleston County asking and supporting his reappointment, and then Charleston County then makes a recommendation to the governor. Then the governor will typically accept their recommendation and then he's appointed. Is that correct, Chief Waltz or Commissioner Tomei?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. On a new appointment, the Attorney General of the state actually gets involved first and then recommends to the governor. But on a reappointment, I think it goes straight from the Charleston County to the governor's office.
Great. Okay, so we'll handle that at our council meeting.
Yeah, so we would like to get a motion from this group to make a recommendation to reappoint Stephen Rolando to the St. John Fire District.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Recommendation carries. So we'll take that up with the council and move it along to the mayor for his support.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's been a lot of activity this year, a lot of good things happening from a public safety standpoint. I think they're making some great progress, especially in the area of emergency response. And that's really important for our island. I'll just ask now if any of the committee members have comments or something you'd like to report on. I'll start with Dwight.
No, thank you.
Okay. Bill, Tomei?
No, I don't have anything additional to report on.
Thank you, Bill. Bonnie?
I just want to mention one thing. Is there something that could be done after that accident at the gate? You know, people are posting stuff on social media like all different stories exacerbating the situation. And I know that it's still under investigation. But, you know, in the future, is there something like that, you know, the town of Kiowa can publish, or, you know, just saying it's under investigation? It just bothers me, the many different storylines I heard.
I totally understand what you're saying and I agree. But I think as long as something's under investigation, no one can
Okay.
really take a position. Is that correct, Lieutenant Brokaw?
And it's usually, I would recommend not stating a position one way or the other regarding the incident. We don't generally publicly announce the results of investigations like that. Once it's completed, it becomes public information and it can be FOIA'd, and we usually leave it for specific requests.
Okay. Stephanie, do you have any ideas on this?
No, I think Lieutenant Brokaw's correct. Unfortunately, I know a lot of residents would like to know what's going on, but we are restricted and limited to what we can discuss and divulge because one, it's not public information if it's ongoing investigation. I know in this particular case, I do believe Kika had put something out, just a very brief statement. And if the community association wanted to do something like that, that is up to them because they have the email addresses for all property owners. We do not. So as a town, remember, if we put something out, anyone can be members of our e-blast, anyone can sign up. So I know the community, I believe Kika, they did put some just kind of brief information out, but I think we do have to be very cautious in terms of trying to advertise because that's not really, or not advertise, but put out the information because that's not really necessarily something that I think would be appropriate for us to do because we have to be respectful of the family involved. They may not want that information out there. I know Tony did talk to the family. He did let the family know that people were asking about it. I know the family did put out their own information. And if the family comes to us and say, we would like for you to share this information, we're more than happy to do that. But we allow the family to take that role, not the town.
Very good. Thank you, Stephanie.
I do have a question. Who runs the Kiowa? Who hosts that?
It's a private group that's run by a Kiowa property owner. So it's strictly a resident listserv. It's not managed by the town or Kika.
Right. I was just wondering, yeah, because maybe someone can contact the host and maybe have them, when stuff like this is under investigation, put a disclaimer out there to kind of, you don't want to squash people's right to speak, but you know, the fact that this can't be talked about, maybe kind of someone could influence them to just put out some kind of disclaimer.
And that's what I think, you know, I totally understand that, you know, something under investigation cannot be, you know, isn't general information, but I do agree that just even reminding people that it's still under investigation, like just that in itself, that no conclusion has been drawn. I guess that's what I'm asking. I think that's a really good point about Kiowa.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, we try not to, from a town's perspective, we don't, of course, we don't typically post anything on there because it is a private listserv by Kika residents. So I know Tony at times will run stuff on there. So if there's things like that, we can ask, you know, if Tony wants to do it from Kika's perspective, we probably more than likely will not do it from the town's perspective now, unless there's something that we want to shoot out. And then we send out an e-blast. And if any member on the listserv want to share that communication, then by all means, they can share our communication, but we don't use that tool as a form of posting because it's not a public tool.
We don't look to it for any official information. All right. Okay, are there any other questions, comments?
I wanted to just, and I told Mr. Tomei I was going to use this opportunity. He had asked a question, and I know Rob, we didn't talk, but he did touch on it. And so Rob, please feel free to elaborate. So the town So this all Rob, this is in regards to your approach with the CDC, with regards to essentially having them track you all's calls, medical calls. So I believe you probably approached them maybe some months ago, I don't know, but then we had a meeting with them because Berry Island Ocean Rescue, which is Rob's group, they had approached them asking essentially if Charleston County Dispatch could use the AutoCAD service, right, or the CAD services for Beach Patrol to be able to track what you guys do. They said, unfortunately, no, they cannot partner with the private entity. They have to partner with the municipality, and because we contract with Beach Patrol, we would essentially have to sign an IGA to allow Charleston County Dispatch to be able to essentially track their calls. And we determined that you only get a few hundred calls a year. And so you may want to go further into that, because I know at the end we talked about you guys essentially doing medical calls on the beach, and then we said so far, and then beachfront properties. And then I think you're going to be essentially now be able to be on the calls for island wide or something. I don't recall all that, but you can discuss that a little bit further, because we have not received the actual IGA. So until I actually receive it, and then we look at it and have council look at it, nothing's quite yet etched in stone.
So yeah, the idea when we got DHEC certified, there's some reporting formalities that we are now held to assist with, and so the patient care reports have to have our times documented and logged. Most of our calls, like for example, those 240 stingray stings, a small fraction of those actually go through 911 and trigger a whole response from the fire department and EMS. And so that's a great thing, because that's something that is expensive and taxing for resources to get tied up on, but it's something that we can pretty easily handle in most cases. So so the idea is that when 911 gets activated and Beach Patrol is a part of that response, that we would also be able to accurately track our times and have the dispatch center do that for us on those particular calls that we're involved with 911. We aren't asking them to track us on all of these other calls that we're not needing the whole 911 response for. So that's the idea there. And it kind of stemmed into a larger conversation. As an agency, DHEC has certified our company as an agency to be a BLS response agency. There's the opportunity. We also have the contract doing code enforcement at night. And so since our agency is already certified as a BLS rapid response agency to first respond, we could be tapped for calls on the island. So that might be of value. It might not. If everything's in place properly and the fire department's in their station, EMS is in their station, there's no real value in pulling one of my guys off the beach and going over to Sea Marsh for some fall or chest pain or anything else. We aren't going to add any value to that call. But there are instances where there might be a structure fire, or there might be an entrapment, or there might be other issues that are creating extended ETAs for all of the other responders. And so this would allow us the ability, if we have the resources, to sort of backfill and pick up and be an asset for the community. So I don't think the idea is for us to be running around the island doing first responder stuff everywhere. And so what this dispatch is going to do is they're going to notify us of the calls, and it'll take some education, but we're going to have to educate our folks when it's appropriate and when we're going to bring value to the call. I know, having been on an ambulance for many, many years, too many responders can be a bad thing. You've got one patient and you've got 8 or 9 people. There's no value that we're adding there. So that's my biggest thing is we want to be able to add value and support the other responders. And so any way that we can do that is what our goal is. So we will be notified of the calls on the island, but we won't be responding just all of them in a shotgun response manner. We'll be selective in how we do that so that we are adding value, not creating a circus at a scene. Chief Walls, did you have anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I think Stephanie said thank you.
Yeah, that, we have to work out, and I thought that was part of the reason why we were going to Charleston County, was to actually address some of those issues, because we need to make sure that this is a coordinated response, and that it can't be shotgun, because there are serious issues with that also, particularly if you don't know where people are located and we come up on each other on intersections. There's no room for error on the roads on Kiowa. And so those are my concerns, and there are concerns that we address every day, which is why we coordinate responses to all kinds of emergencies already. And so that was my concern. It's still my concern, but I think that it's logistically something that we can work out.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And thank you to our agencies for everything you do to keep us safe. And I hope everyone has a great day.
You too.